Toxic people don't destroy you with violence. They drain you with influence. They smile while they poison, disguise manipulation as concern, and feed on your emotional reactions like parasites feeding on blood. Most men never realize what's happening until they're hollow, drained of confidence, clarity, and self-respect. We're taught to be kind, to forgive, to always see the good in people. But Machiavelli would call that weakness disguised as virtue. He understood that human nature isn't gentle, it's strategic. Behind every friendly face could hide an agenda, and behind every act of kindness could lurk control. Men fail not because they're weak, but because they underestimate how cold the world can be. They think being good protects them, when in truth, it makes them predictable. This video isn't about being cruel. It's about being untouchable. You'll learn 7 Machiavellian laws, designed to shield you from the silent assassins of energy and trust. Those who drain your spirit, twist your words, and disguise dependence as love. If you don't learn these laws, someone else will use them on you. And by the time you notice, it'll already be too late. We're raised to believe that niceness is the ultimate virtue, that if you're kind, forgiving, and agreeable, life will somehow reward you. From childhood, men are told to be nice, stay humble, don't make waves. But in the real world, niceness doesn't make you respected, it makes you useful. The problem isn't kindness itself. It's blind kindness, the kind that ignores manipulation out of fear of appearing cruel. Toxic people can sense this. They study the man who hesitates to say no, who tries too hard to be liked, who confuses acceptance with peace. To them, niceness is an open door, an invitation to exploit. Look around. The office worker who covers for his lazy colleague, the boyfriend who tolerates disrespect to keep the relationship together, the friend who's always available but never prioritized. These aren't saints, they're victims of moral conditioning. Society taught them that standing up for themselves is selfish, that boundaries are arrogance, that rejection is cruelty. Machiavelli saw through this centuries ago. He wrote that men who rely on goodwill are doomed, because goodwill is fickle. It evaporates when power shifts. In The Prince, he warned that mercy without control leads to ruin. To survive, a man must balance virtue with calculation, kindness with authority. Being good doesn't mean being harmless. True goodness has power behind it, the ability to say no without guilt, to walk away without apology, to protect your peace without explanation. Niceness seeks approval. Power commands respect. And here lies the first truth of Machiavellian realism. If you must choose between being liked and being respected, always choose respect. Niceness might win you friends, but respect will keep you free. To understand how to protect yourself, you must first unlearn everything society taught you about being good. Power doesn't belong to the loud, the kind, or even the intelligent. It belongs to those who can detach emotion from decision. That was Machiavelli's deepest insight, that control isn't about dominance over others, but over yourself. He understood that emotions, when ungoverned, are invisible chains. They make you reactive, predictable, and therefore controllable. Most men mistake emotional intensity for authenticity. They think that feeling deeply means being real. But Machiavelli knew feeling deeply only makes you predictable. The man who cannot separate his feelings from his strategy becomes easy to manipulate. A single insult derails him. A single compliment blinds him. This is where the concept of cold empathy begins, understanding human emotion with precision, but refusing to drown in it. A Machiavellian doesn't ignore feelings. He studies them. He knows exactly what triggers loyalty, fear, attraction, or envy, but he never lets those forces dictate his choices. He observes them like a chess player studying the board. When someone provokes you, they're testing your emotional temperature. The more you react, the more data you give them. When you stay calm, you become unreadable, and unreadable men are dangerous. In a world ruled by manipulation, composure is currency. Machiavelli wrote that men must learn how not to be good, not in the moral sense, but in the strategic sense. You must be capable of stepping outside your feelings to see the broader game. Logic must replace outrage. Observation must replace judgment. That's the foundation of psychological dominance. It's not that emotions are bad, they're powerful tools. But like fire, they destroy when uncontrolled. A Machiavellian mind doesn't extinguish emotion. It harnesses it. He uses anger as energy, empathy as insight, fear as alertness. Most men spend their lives reacting. A few learn to calculate. And those few quietly shape the world. Because in a game where everyone's screaming their feelings, the man who whispers with reason always wins. Most men fail here. They think feeling deeply means being real. Machiavelli knew feeling deeply means being predictable. Law 1, observe. Don't react. The first rule of power is control of perception. Toxic people thrive on reaction. It tells them what you value, what hurts you, what makes you insecure. Every outburst, every emotional defense is a breadcrumb leading straight to your weakness. The Machiavellian man never reacts. He observes. Like a hunter in the dark, he studies patterns, tone, body language, and motives. He lets silence expose what words try to hide. Observation is the opposite of submission. It's gathering data, intelligence that gives you leverage. When you react, you're a participant. When you observe, you're a strategist. Every manipulator reveals themselves if you're patient enough to watch. And once you see their game, you've already won half the battle. Stay quiet. Stay unreadable. The moment you stop giving them an emotional mirror, they lose their reflection and their control. Law 2. Mirror their energy, not their emotion. Toxic people manipulate through emotional extremes. They shout, sulk, charm, or guilt to pull you into their storm. The weak man responds emotionally, trying to calm, explain, or fix. The Machiavellian does none of that. He mirrors energy, not emotion. If they raise their voice, he maintains calm authority. If they play the victim, he acknowledges facts without sympathy. This confuses manipulators, because they can't sync their chaos with his composure. Mirroring energy means matching presence and tone, not their mood. You become a reflection they can't read. This tactic creates power equilibrium. It denies them dominance in the emotional arena and forces them to confront their own tactics. Remember, your emotional neutrality is their frustration. The moment they can't provoke you, they start revealing themselves. And when a manipulator feels seen but not understood, they lose control. Law 3. Starve them of validation. Every toxic person feeds on validation, approval, attention, arguments, even hatred. To them, any reaction is proof of control. That's why silence is lethal. When you stop feeding their ego with defense, explanation, or apology, you cut off their emotional oxygen. Machiavelli would call this strategic deprivation. You're not ignoring them out of anger. You're starving them out of existence. Their power depends on engagement, and your refusal to engage is their collapse. Stop explaining yourself. Stop correcting their lies. Stop proving your worth. The less you feed their narrative, the faster it starves. Without validation, their manipulative tactics lose purpose. Because manipulation without audience is meaningless, your detachment becomes punishment. Your indifference becomes dominance. Remember, attention is the currency of control. Spend it wisely, or someone else will spend it for you. Law 4. Control access, not behavior. You can't fix toxic people, and trying to is the trap. Manipulators survive by convincing you that your love, patience, or understanding will change them. It never does. Machiavelli taught that power is not in reforming others, but in controlling access to you. Stop trying to manage their behavior. Manage proximity instead. Control how much of your time, information, and emotion they can reach. The more distance you create, the weaker their influence becomes. Boundaries are walls that keep chaos at bay. Understand this. Toxic people can't manipulate what they can't reach. Every boundary you enforce is a declaration of authority. You are no longer playing their game. You're setting the rules. The goal isn't revenge or reform. It's emotional sovereignty. Because the moment you realize control lies in access, not approval, you become untouchable. Law 5. Exploit their predictability. The beauty of manipulation is that it's repetitive. Toxic people aren't as clever as they seem. They rely on the same tactics: guilt, flattery, anger, victimhood. Once you recognize the pattern, you can predict every move before it happens. That's when the game flips. Machiavelli would tell you, predictability is weakness. Every manipulator exposes their strategy through habit. When you see it, don't confront it, exploit it. Use their patterns against them. If they thrive on chaos, give them silence. If they bait with guilt, respond with logic. If they crave attention, give them none. Knowing their next move gives you freedom from confusion. Their emotional storm becomes background noise. And once you stop being surprised, you stop being controlled. The predictable enemy is powerless because he's already been outplayed. Law 6. Disarm with indifference. Indifference is the Machiavellian sword. It cuts deeper than anger because it removes the enemy's illusion of importance. Toxic people live for emotional exchange. Whether love or hate, they just want a reaction. When you give them indifference, you erase their existence in your emotional reality. True indifference is quiet dominance. It says, you no longer have the power to affect me. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. You see the person, the manipulation, the performance, and you simply stop caring. That's when their grip dissolves. Machiavelli understood that cold composure terrifies emotional aggressors. They can't manipulate someone who refuses to play. So stop debating, stop defending, stop proving. Let silence speak for you. Indifference doesn't just protect your peace, it reclaims your power. Because the moment you stop reacting, you stop being their supply and start being their lesson. Law 7. Walk away coldly. The final law is the hardest and the most powerful. When you've seen through manipulation, when you've tried boundaries and silence, the last move is to walk away coldly. Not in anger, not in pain, but in certainty. Walking away isn't weakness. It's declaration. It says, you no longer exist in my kingdom. Toxic people feed on closure. They crave one last conversation, one final emotional spark to pull you back. Deny it. Leave them in silence. Your calm exit is psychological devastation because it denies them relevance. Machiavelli wrote that mercy must serve power, not guilt. To walk away coldly is mercy toward yourself. You stop negotiating with poison. Stop explaining your worth. Stop bleeding energy into someone who never deserved it. The moment you walk away without announcement or emotion, you become untouchable. The cold silence that follows is your proof of mastery. But knowing the laws means nothing without understanding. The battlefield, the modern world where toxicity has become normal. We no longer live in a world of swords and kings, but of energy vampires and emotional traps. The wars of our time are not fought with armies, but with attention, validation, and emotional control. The new battlefield is psychological, invisible, silent, and constant. And the men who don't see it are the first to fall. Online, manipulation hides behind filters and smiles. Clout chasers pretend to care while harvesting your attention. Influencers preach authenticity while selling illusions. Every post, every story, every good vibes only caption is a strategy, a curated mask built to extract admiration, envy, or obedience. You're not scrolling social media. You're walking through a marketplace of manipulation. At work, it's more subtle. Toxic colleagues weaponize politeness. They praise you in public and undermine you in private. The corporate world has perfected the art of passive aggression, domination wrapped in professionalism. And in relationships, emotional blackmail is disguised as love. If you really cared, you'd do this for me. You're making me feel unloved. It's all designed to make you surrender your boundaries in the name of connection. Machiavelli's wisdom has never been more relevant. He warned that appearances rule the world, and in the digital age, appearances are the world. Most people now live in performance mode, measuring their worth through reactions and relevance. The one who resists this, who refuses to play the emotional currency game, becomes powerful by default. You must learn to see beneath tone, beneath image, beneath emotion. Every smile, every compliment, every act of empathy has a motive, and it's your job to decode it. That's not paranoia. That's survival. If you can't see manipulation today, you're already controlled. The battlefield isn't outside you anymore. It's inside your mind. And if you can't guard it, someone else will invade it. The men who win this war aren't the loudest or the kindest. They're the most observant. The ones who know that in a world built on performance, the only real power is detachment. But once you've seen the battlefield clearly, the question becomes, how do you turn this chaos into strength? Most men waste years trying to escape toxic people, not realizing that every encounter with them is an initiation. The universe sends manipulators, liars, and emotional parasites for one reason: to expose your weaknesses. Each toxic person you meet is a mirror reflecting the parts of you that still crave validation, approval, or control. The Machiavellian doesn't curse these encounters, he studies them. Pain becomes data. Disrespect becomes information. Manipulation becomes a classroom. Every insult that once wounded you now teaches you what triggers you, and that knowledge is priceless. Machiavelli believed that the wise man learns even from his enemies, because enemies show you truths your friends never will. Toxic people, in their twisted way, reveal how power actually operates, who commands it, who submits to it, and who wastes it through emotion. To turn toxicity into strength, begin with emotional detachment practice. The next time someone tries to provoke you, pause. Observe your body, your breath, your instinct to react. Every second you delay a reaction, your control multiplies. Next, start strategic observation journaling. Write down patterns you notice in manipulators, tone shifts, guilt tactics, word choices. Over time, you'll see the same psychological fingerprints appear again and again. Recognition is armor. Finally, perform energy audits. Assess who drains you and who sharpens you. Cut off emotional debtors without guilt. Machiavelli would call this restructuring alliances. It's not cruelty. It's clarity. You're conserving energy for higher pursuits, goals, mastery, self-respect. Toxicity, when seen through the right lens, becomes the gym where emotional strength is forged. Every manipulator you survive hardens your discipline. Every betrayal refines your intuition. What once broke you now trains you. This is the alchemy of the Machiavellian mindset, turning poison into power, chaos into clarity, because the truth is simple. Once you stop fighting toxic people, you start mastering yourself. And mastery, not mercy, is the highest form of peace. In the beginning, you were taught to fix, to please, to explain, believing that goodness meant endurance. But Machiavelli would tell you the opposite, that power begins where emotional dependency ends. The moment you stop needing people to understand you, you reclaim control over your own mind. Detachment is not numbness. It's clarity. It's the ability to see the world as it is, not as your emotions wish it to be. The manipulator thrives on your reactions, your guilt, your desire to prove yourself. When you withdraw that energy, you strip them of power. What's left is silence, the kind that unsettles weak people and empowers the disciplined. You are no longer the victim of emotional games. You are the observer of them. You don't argue with lies. You outlast them. You don't fight for attention. You redirect it inward, toward strategy, purpose, and calm. That's the cold freedom Machiavelli understood, not the absence of feeling, but the mastery of it. You can't heal the world, but you can rule your reactions. You can't stop people from being toxic, but you can stop offering them access. Most men spend their lives explaining themselves to people who secretly hate them. The few who stop become untouchable. That's the silent power Machiavelli left behind. Control not over others, but over yourself. And in a world built on manipulation, that control is the rarest form of freedom.